Hello and welcome back to the Monch Hours podcast. I'm your host, John, and I'm here with my good friend.
That's me, Jordan. Just good friend this time. Usually it's like spectacular or just immaculate, like just amazing. But I guess I'm just good this week. So.
Well,
Whatever.
Yeah, we're just good. You know, you got to keep them, keep you on your toes, man. I can't give you the highest praise every week.
Are you keeping me humble, bro?
Yeah, I'm keeping you humble, Mr. Hariyaka Sunrise Breeze or whatever you call it.
Not this week, dude.
Not this week. But we also have a special guest. We have a guest on coming for our Akira episode, and that is Jared, our good friend. So, Jared, why don't you say hi and kind of give us a little bit about yourself?
How goes it? Let me work my way around Jordan's head real quick. Hang on.
Damn.
My name's Jared. Yeah, I'm from Oxnard, California originally, out of Prescott. Military veteran, just long-time anime and manga fan. Fucking giant closet nerd.
Yeah.
Fucking nerd.
Fucking nerd. You and your nerd hair.
Yeah.
That's the way
Go ahead, Jordan.
Oh, no, I was just saying, like, yeah, I feel like that's one of those things, like, we've always harped on that we've all came together, just, you know, we became friends and then we found out that we all have, like, these similar interests.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, because of that, too, let me fix my mic's falling down. Jared, we actually are from the same hometown, which I think when we first met, we didn't know that until like we're at like, what was it called? Bricks and Bones at the time in Prescott?
Yeah, it was like, I think it was still far from Folsom at that point, wasn't it?
No, it was before.
Or was it
It was Bricks and Bones. Yeah.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, it was still Bricks and Bones.
Yeah. And we're drinking some Jameson, and I'm like, wait a minute. 805.
Yeah, you're from. Damn right, bro.
But yeah, so
small
did we
world.
just become best friends?
Pretty much.
Yeah, right? You want to go do karate in the garage?
I mean, Jordan was there, but then after that, he wasn't there. He was irrelevant.
Yeah, it's like I faded away. It was like
He became the side character.
I disappeared out of the pictures, you know?
Yeah.
Right?
But
Until we Photoshop it again.
Oh, true.
But yeah, so that's kind of a quick introduction. So we're gonna jump into our deep dive, or at least our, talks about Akira. And with that, we'll crack a cold one and cue the intro.
Welcome to the Monch Hours podcast, where we consume manga and anime with pleasure. Crack a cold one and enjoy the show.
We're back. All right, Jordan, you know how this goes weekly, man. What are you drinking this week?
Bro, it's the same. It's been the same for the past 3 weeks. It's the seltzer.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
staying refreshed, bro.
Okay.
You know, it's hot.
That White Claw.
It's not White Claw, but similar. They're all the same.
Why do you sound so disappointed that it's not?
I mean, I drink White Claw. I'm not against it. But not today. How about you, Jared? Let's see, what you sipping on over there? Oh, you said it 805, right?
Yeah, fine, 805.
Ah, nice.
Ventura created. What is it? Firestone Brewing Company?
Yep, Firestone Walker.
Firewalker Brewing Company?
Firestone Walker, I think it is.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah, I got some good taste to it.
Then I'm drinking Last Place on Earth from local Casa Agria. There's a double Indian Pale Ale, so I should be set for the evening after this one here. I'll show the... Ooh, that light is harsh. I should probably invest in an actual light and not using a lamp I bought from Costco.
Yeah, dude, you need the ring light.
Dude, low key, I've actually been thinking about getting that, honestly.
Yeah. I wouldn't be mad at you if you did.
I'd be looking like hi-fi, Mr. Breaking my streaming career and play some video games.
Bro, you'd be giving my heart butterflies if I see you with the ring light on camera.
Swings like that.
Just for you.
So as I mentioned earlier, this episode is going to be totally dedicated to Akira, so we're not going to be talking about recaps or anything like that. So with that being said, we'll jump right into it. Philip DeFranco, let's jump right into it. Akira, or otherwise known as Akira. Either way you pronounce it, there's both ways. I've heard both ways. In the film, it's Akira, but of course, I've heard people say Akira. So I'm not going to harp on anybody, whichever way they pronounce it, because obviously, as in previous episodes, I have problems just with words that that are normally said, like amalgamation, and I don't know how to say it whatsoever. But if you guys don't know what Akira is, it is a film that was released in 1988, obviously an animation film, a Japanese anime film that took place in like a cyberpunk post-apocalyptic dystopia. And for those who don't know what dystopia is, it's the opposite of utopia, so it's like a frightening situation. And the cyberpunk genre, if you know, a lot of the whole cyberpunk name kind of got hijacked from Cyberpunk 2077, which is a game that's coming out in a couple months. But cyberpunk itself is an actual genre. Think of like technologically advanced civilization, but it kind of went down the horror-esque scene where it's pretty much all about tech, drugs, and sexual evolution, and all kind of mix in this nasty cocktail of a world. And then you have the cyberpunk, people that have technology integrated into their bodies, robotic eyes. You're thinking of movies like Ghost in the Shell. Shows like Ghost in the Shell, movies like Blade Runner. Have you seen any of those? Those are pretty much a pretty good take on cyberpunk. So this film is a cyberpunk film that came out, like I mentioned, 1988. So we're actually at just past, is it 30 years? Yeah, 30 years.
32.
Yeah.
32 years. Wow, 32 years, which is crazy. Yeah. So Akira, as you mentioned, we have two people. The film kind of revolves around Tetsuo and Kaneda, and then they have their sidekicks, their biker gangs. Pretty much, it starts off in their bosozoku motorcycle gang, which is a Japanese bosozoku is a Japanese term for a motorcycle gang. That takes place, and then they're kind of driving through the city. They're in a rival fight with another gang, and that's when Tetsuo comes across essentially a telepathic being that is of kind of unknown powers, and he comes in contact with this being. Things kind of take place. He gets his own powers, and things escalate from there, as we see throughout the film. If we fast forward, pretty much we have a kind of meltdown of this power that takes place, and then we have another post-apocalyptic scenario. So I want to I know that was a super hyper condensed version of it, but I want to kind of give you guys I want to ask you guys a question. When was your first time watching Akira?
I'll let Jared go first. Open it up to him.
I think my first time I was probably about like 10 or 11, honestly. And it was one of those Friday Blockbuster nights where your parents were like, oh, let's go to Blockbuster. And I remember getting it on VHS, man.
Right.
I don't even think it was dubbed yet. I think it was still subbed.
Mm-hmm.
But since it was a cartoon, your parents were like, oh, that's fine. Yeah, whatever you want. Not knowing, of course, how just savage that movie can get.
Yeah.
Seeing nudity and shit in animated form.
Violence.
Yeah, that's
drugs.
why you turned out the way you did, dude.
Right. It happens. Happens to the best of us.
It does. For me, I remember it's probably, I'm not sure if you said when, like how old you were, but I'm assuming around the same age since you said VHS. But yeah, it was probably when I was like 10 or 11, around that age. And I remember my cousin, he's I think 6 or 7 years older than me. This is probably still his favorite movie of all time. And he put me on to it. So I was like, all right, like he had the movie, the VHS, I think. And like I had borrowed it. And I mean, I was like 11 years old. So a lot of it went over my head.
Right.
I was just like, this looks awesome. Like, because I mean, it stands the test of time. It looked awesome then. It still looks awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a work of art.
Yeah. And so like I appreciate it as that, but yeah, I was just young when I watched it and everything went over my head, but action was cool. And you know, when you're super young, you're like, oh shit, like anything edgy, you're just all in on it.
Yeah. Like this guy has superpowers too. Like
right, he's flying and shit. What's going on?
Now he has a cape.
Yeah. How about you, John? What was your first experience?
Similar to you guys, is probably, you know, a young age, had no idea what I was getting into at the time, and didn't quite understand the overall plot impact of the film, other than, you know, what I've seen of anime and animation at the time was pretty, I mean, you know, wasn't as nearly as impactful or had such a serious plot as Akira did, or Akira. So I've seen, that was the first time I saw it at a young age. I probably want to say like around 10, 11, or 12 in the early 2000s. Of course, like I mentioned, not really grasping its full entirety until I rewatched it at a much later age, probably within like when I was a teenager. And of course, like you just said, when it's like dark and edgy, you're like, man, this is like my shit. I'm like, whole life is going to be like revolving around this, is the future is going to be this way. Because at the time, you know, this film takes place in 2019. And so, you know, back then you're thinking, oh shit, 2019, here we go. I'm about to join a motorcycle gang. We're about to run this. I'm gonna go to Neo Tokyo.
I'm still waiting for my Kaneda bike, goddammit.
Yeah.
But y'all can have the bike. I'll have the fucking leather jacket.
The leather jacket is so fucking badass. That bomber jacket.
I want that fucking bike.
Bike is dope.
Yeah, everything's pretty dope. But yeah, that's the first time my first experience with Akira, and of course watching it throughout the years. So I kind of want to also like kind of break into a little more of the world that's presented. You know, as I just mentioned, you know, this all takes place in 2019 in Neo Tokyo. It's plagued by corruption. There's like massive protests, anti-government protests. You know, it opens up with like the marching of the streets. We see the road is blocked off by cops. There's riots. There's shots being, you know, rung, and then there's just a massive kind of tension that the film presents immediately. And the world that Akira kind of builds is so unique in its way. When we get like this opening sequence, of course we have like the bikes and they're drifting through the streets and the neon lights are coming off and trailing off their bikes. And then we have the, you know, the neon signs and everything's kind of opening up. It's giving you the massive scope of this world. And like you mentioned, Jared, the animation, it's so like it stands the test of time, if for lack of better words.
It's still like beautiful.
Yeah, because we just we had to rewatch it, of course. You know, any excuse to watch Akira is a good excuse. So when it's like I never get old of it, and every time I watch it, I always pick out something else that I notice in the animation. Like
you're like, I didn't see that before. Like that's like it's just there's certain things that just pop out each time you watch it that you're constantly seeing something new.
Right. And like this time for me was like just the massive scope, like the cityscape and how like it's rotating. We have these panoramic shots, or not panoramic, but these shots where like you see the streets, the zooming past the street lights, but then the cityscapes in the background rotating at a different direction, at different speed. And it's like noticing that now, I guess, with an appreciation for film and video direction is like, dude, this like is like way bigger than I like initially imagined, you know, of just Neo Tokyo. This is just like massive, and the world
they do it on a ridiculous scale.
Right. And then this world is is like cyberpunk to a T. And of course, like this film like inspired so many things, but I will get into that in a little bit later. But yeah, it's like another question to you guys. I know Jared, you were just talking about it right now. Is like, what is like one of the things when you think of Akira and its world building and its environment, like what stands out to you the most?
Just
Go
literally.
either one.
I'll jump in first.
Oh, I was about
But for me, I'd say just the lights. When you're like you're saying, you're traveling through the city and the lights, so many, it's neon lights everywhere. It's just illuminating the whole cityscape. And you even see that following like the after image trail, the lights that are trailing behind their motorbikes as they're speeding along. It kind of gives that like Tron, you know, that old movie Tron, that feel of those bikes with the light trail. And like when you see there's just billboards and like that are all lit up, and it's kind of like, not gonna lie, I haven't been to Tokyo, but this is what I imagine Tokyo as, and I'm probably gonna be disappointed when I end up going because I'm setting these lofty expectations. But that's what I think of.
There's no like burning cars and shit in the street and
riots in the street.
I mean, there might be. It's 2020, so yeah. But yeah, that's what I think of. You know?
Yeah, I feel you. How about you, Jared?
I just like the massive scale of it, like you were talking about earlier too, is just, I don't know, it's mind blowing to think that even back then, though, like most of that was hand done. That's hours upon hours upon hours of work, and just the detail they put into everything just was ridiculous.
Right. Absolutely. You kind of fail to, I mean, like you just brought up right now, we kind of forget because of the animation we see today, but a lot of this, you know, was a lot harder back then, and the time that was devoted to it was
It's a work of love right there.
Yeah, a work of love. Absolutely. And you can tell it was a work of love because the manga actually originally came out, I believe, like in 1983. And so this film is actually an adaptation of the manga. And what's cool about the manga is it actually goes past, you know, the ending of the film. And we kind of get like a Mad Max-esque type of environment. So we have actions or events that take place after, you know, the massive explosion or the collapsing or the creation of a new universe from Akira and Tetsuo. So like I'm super keen to get into the manga and kind of explore that world. And like I believe now, I'm not sure if this is confirmed or not, but there's going to be a reboot of Akira, and they're actually going to include that post-apocalyptic world in that reboot. Hopefully. So that'll be fucking awesome to see there.
The live action they've been talking about for like the last like 8 years.
I don't know about the live action. Maybe, dude, but it's kind of crazy. Of course, there's concern for live action, especially with a film of this scope and kind of.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, they can do it, of course, but with every live action, there's going to obviously, you know.
Yeah, it doesn't mean it's going to be great.
Right. I mean, yeah, we've seen Death Note live action, and we all know that is. But yeah, like for me, this time, what I caught, what really stood out to me was definitely the tension of the riots and the anti-government movement and the police and the military group. Probably because of what's going on in our world right now, we kind of seem to be at an all high tension of that. So I was able to relate to it a lot more, both because it's happening currently and I'm at an older age to where I can really connect some of the two of them together, and it helps me kind of immerse myself into this universe.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that is really, it's like I mentioned earlier, it's 2020, but this is set 2019. It's like they were off by a year, which is weird, you know, to think about that, just how the world is now and how it kind of mirrors like the world of Akira.
Mm-hmm.
This is kind of an odd coincidence.
We're off a year, right? I mean, God, dude, I wouldn't be surprised if the way 2020 is going, if fucking there's a superpower Esper over in Tokyo right now.
Yeah, seriously. Right. Yeah, so something that jumped out to me, and like I want to hear you guys' thoughts on this, but like I've been kind of like when watching anime as of recent, like I think about just where the creators are coming from when they make certain choices.
Right.
And like I'm thinking about, it starts out with there's a bombing, a like large scale like nuclear bombing in Japan, in Tokyo.
Mm-hmm.
Like in my mind, I automatically think like just history behind that. Like you think they're pulling from, you know, the history that they experienced and like tackling it and putting it into their art as like maybe a way of culturally like dealing with it. Because I mean,
Right.
at that point, it was only 40 years ago. You know, many people who probably saw this, or people in the production staff, you know, someone funding it at least, had probably lived through that point in Japan's history. So it's, I'm sure in my mind, like there's connections there, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I agree with you on that part. I think even when I was kind of like doing some more, just like getting more information about it, I believe there was something where it kind of pulls along that, you know, 1980, the movie takes place in 1988. There's that bombing that takes place, which is similar to, you know, the bombings of what occurred, like Nagasaki and Hiroshima. And then we have, again, like, you know, that post-apocalyptic world that takes place after that. And then we have maybe a second one that takes place, that impact at the end of the film. So I do think that there's possible correlation in relation to the two that you mentioned.
Yeah. Well, something that also made me think about it, and it was just a little nuance, but you hear the rioters in the streets and they're like chanting and yelling, and like if you're not paying attention, like it might go over your head, but at one point one of them says like down with imperialism. And if you think about it, in World War II, it was Japan was imperialist.
Yeah, it was an imperialistic country.
Yeah. So like in my mind, that's another thing. I'm like, well, like there's a connection. You know, these little choices, they had to have been like a larger thought in the creator's mind when like putting this down on paper, you know?
Right.
Well, I mean, even when they say that like it occurs after World War III.
That's true. Yeah, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yep, that one's like
I didn't catch that imperialistic comment, which is really cool you brought it up. What I did catch,
I noticed it earlier, man. When I was watching it, I was like, "Oh wow!"
Did you guys catch it when in the beginning, the initial opening sequence? We had the riots again, and somebody said, "What is this? What is this like military state?" They said like, "What is that?" Sieg Heil, which is like the Nazi salute, I believe.
Yeah.
They said that, and they threw it out there. I'm like, fuck, man. Like, I totally never caught that before. And, you know, maybe I do want to actually bring this out. Maybe because I've always seen it in subbed. I've always watched Akira in sub, but this time, since I've seen it so much times in subbed, I watched it in dubbed. And so maybe that was a
it's totally different.
Yeah, you catch some different things, which is cool. That might be in parts to the localization team that was on that for translation and comments and all that. But I just want to say, dude,
shout out to Funimation on that one, man. They did a damn good job.
And the dub is stacked with amazing voice actors. Like, it is stacked, dude. Like, you have, I don't know the voice actors' names, or I can't remember them, but like Tetsuo is played by the same character who played Tai in Digimon. I think Kaneda is Ichigo from Bleach. I heard Steve Bloom died like twice.
His name's Josh Day Fong or some shit like that. He was like one of the Power Rangers too.
Yeah. I caught like some other Digimon voices in there. I think the Colonel is the same guy who played Jet Black, and there's so many other voices. As I was listening on through the film, I was like, memories are flooding back to my mind. Like, the dub is a phenomenal dub. It is a phenomenal dub.
Yeah, they killed it.
That's something I appreciate too. Just not just the dub, but the overall, the sound, the production behind it. Like, it's an amazing. Like, the world just sucks you in with just the musical score, the nuanced noises of the city. Even like whenever you're introduced with the telepath characters, I can't remember their names, but Takashi, it's that weird. Kyoto, maybe something like that. Yeah, but yeah, those three characters, it has that weird, I don't even know what instrument it would be, but it's like bloop, 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 bloop. You know what I mean? Like, it's a weird musical choice, but it's fitting when you're thinking about like, this is like these people are pretty much, they're psychics to an extent, I guess. They can read your mind, they can speak telepathically, like they have crazy powers. And
Right.
like, of course, the music should kind of like represent that in a way. And that musical choice right there, I was like, this is weird, but it makes me think like, oh yeah, these people are up to something. Like they got something going on.
Well, yeah, and plus it was like almost like a futuristic version of like traditional Japanese music as well. So it was really interestingly done.
Excellent. Yeah, Jared, that was excellent. The score in this film is phenomenal. We have, like you mentioned, like the new take on it, plus the chanting that really impacts at certain moments where you're like really highlights the unknown factor that these powers are possessing, and like you can tell it's out of this realm of understanding. Like the music helps that translate into our minds so well. It's everything like packaged in this film. There's a reason why 30 years later this film is still as influential as it was at its initial release.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's a staple. Yeah. It's like one of the staples of anime.
Yes, and it's almost like I've come to a point like sometimes where, I mean, you have people that will come up to you and they'll say, "Oh, I want to start anime. What do you recommend?" And then you can throw out some stuff, like you kind of like get a catch, like if they're really being serious about it, if it's just kind of like they're making small talk because they want to like talk to you. Where if like someone is actually like, "Hey, dude, like I do want to get into anime because like a certain person that I follow and respect, like Kanye West, tweets about Akira. This person wants to get into anime." It's like, dude, watch Akira. Like,
yeah.
Not only you're gonna get like some phenomenal animation, like really pristine, true to era animation, like that we all grew up on. Like, and there's something about the animation that's like, I'll get into that later when we talk about it. But it's like, watch Akira. Like, you're getting real life scenarios that people can relate to. Like, it's not some fruity tooty, like haha, like slice of life. With nothing against that, because I watch slice of life, but like. It helps break the mold where people think anime is a kid's cartoon. Like, no, like this dude just got his guts spilled out across the floor and is trying to scoop him back in,
Yeah. Like this dude just got shot literally in the face.
Yeah, and his flesh peeled off. That's Akira. It's like I think it's like 100% solid choice for someone who's trying to break into anime to watch, because it breaks the mold.
That's true.
Especially someone that's not like a teenager. I mean,
oh, you kind of broke up there. What would you say?
Oh, I said especially if someone the person starting out isn't like a teenager or something like that. If they're in their 20s or something, it's a good way to start being like, look, it can be gritty, it can be raw too. So
gritty and raw, yeah, absolutely, 100%. Jordan, I think you were going to say something.
Yeah, I feel like it should be. It's almost like, in school where there's like required reading for like to pass your classes. Like literature, you got to read all like the classics. Like for being like an anime, Akira is almost like required viewing.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it should be.
Yeah, it's just one of those, like, you have to watch it. It's not even something like we can be over here like talking about it for hours and we wouldn't do it any justice, because it's something it's an experience. You have to like watch it yourself and really take in all the little subtleties to really see just how it all comes together and makes such a great piece of art.
It's so much beyond just anime and animation. Like, it is standalone, an amazing, like, it's art. It's like an amazing film. It is absolutely like a 10 out of 10 in my mind. Just even not considering like anime, is just like standalone amazing.
Yeah, I'm curious if like in film school, if any classes like cover this, because I'm sure like the art style, the directorial paths and choices, like all of that has to be like top notch when you compare it to like any of these films that people say are like the classics, like the best of the best, the creme de la creme. Like all of that, this kind of mirrors that just in an animated form. So I wonder if like people in film school study study this.
You know what? Oh, go ahead, Jay.
Which I wouldn't have any basis on because I'm just saying I wouldn't have any basis. I haven't been arts or film school.
Sorry, I meant Jared. Go ahead,
either
Jared.
of you have, so
you guys are both Jays. My bad.
Get it straight, bro. Fuck.
You're confusing Jordan now. Look at what you did.
Confuse him all the time.
Yeah, dude, I'm small brain over here. Shit.
No, it's just like, I don't know. It was so well written too. Like it's, like a lot of times like shit just carries on and like I don't know, you get sidetracked and like I'm just like why did they even put this in here when it has nothing to do with it, or it's just really I don't know. The storyline's just so diverse and just all over the place, and you're seeing it from multiple perspectives. It was just amazingly written.
Yeah, and I just want to say, like, I agree to that sentiment, like how well written it was. So you can tell, like you mentioned earlier, how much of a passion project this was. Like, this adaptation was, of course, from the manga. The source material was to a point. Like, you can tell that this person, that the creator of Akira, like, really understood, or really like. It's so hard to like. I don't want to put words in like the mouth of like the director or anything, so I don't want to like say anything, but. What I do want to say is everything was perfected. And I know a lot of the times we say these things for like nostalgic reasons. Like we talk about Dragon Ball Z, for example, like, oh, it's so good. Of course, I grew up as a child, but like when I watch like new Dragon Ball, or even when I watch like Dragon Ball Z as I am right now, I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna straight up skip a lot of parts to get to the good parts because it's really kind of just like right. Whereas like Akira, it's just like. From the moment the film starts, dude, like a lot of time, like my scale of grading is so fucked, like because as humans, like I feel like we have the less attention span than the goldfish. Like if I'm watching anime and it's like dubbed, for example, I'll play on my phone while I'm watching it. But like legit, I was like, oh, I'm gonna play some games on my phone while I watch this because I've seen it so many times. No, as soon as it started, my phone went down and I was just in the world, dude. Perfect, like 100%. Enamored and captured by the design and the perfection that this film presents.
Yeah, dude, my experience was kind of the same too. Like, I was laying on the couch, I started it, and had my phone in my hand, seen it a ton of times, like you said, and then you're in it, and you're dropped right into this battle between like two biker gangs. They're fucking fighting on motorcycles.
Yeah,
one of them
the clowns.
It looks like it's the Joker's gang.
yeah.
Shit's getting wild. You're like, oh yeah, this is what that movie is. So it like reels you in with this action piece, but it's not like over the top. The over the top comes later. But
it's like the constant little roller coaster ride that it's just like action, story, and like the storylines even mixed in with the action, so you're still just like enamored with the entire thing.
Yes.
Yeah. And little things in that opening sequence are just showing you how fucked this world is. Like, they're going through the city fighting on motorcycles, and you pans to a restaurant shot, and the waiter just sprints away, and then motorcycle just crashes through the window and kills like two people sitting at a table, and you're like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
Like, they're just innocent. Like, usually you don't see the damage.
Like the massive like groups of people dying when they're being blown up on the bridge and shit when they're watching, what's going on. Then all of a sudden, like, him and that chick are fighting, and all of a sudden they're like, freaking buildings are blowing up. The bridge blows up with all those people on it. Like, it's crazy.
And as we live in the world we are right now, it's like how much of that at a younger age is like that's totally out of line. But honestly, dude, I can see that in the next 10 years. Like, I'm already seeing videos of like brawls taking place in like a Waffle House and McDonald's and shit. It's like, dude, we're not that far off. Like, it's almost like humanity needs like an extraterrestrial enemy to where we can all band together. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean,
ourselves bored.
What do they say? Like, art reflects reality, right? Like,
art imitates life.
Yeah,
or vice versa.
I mean,
but like, this was designed in 1980. The manga came out in 1983, film 1988. Dude, here we are in 2020, and it's still relevant. It's more relevant than it was initially.
And that's the crazy part about it is it's like up there with you know, some of the great writers or some of the great poets or some of the great musicians. Like,
Yeah.
the Akira team as a whole just created this magnificent just masterpiece.
Right.
And that's why it's been able to like stand its time.
And I want to say, like, while we're at it here, like, I want to break into like the animation of this film. We talked about how like it's like almost it's true to its era, right? Like it's reminiscent of the '90s animation, but for some reason, like this '90s animation, maybe because of the way it was, how it was created back then, like I absolutely love when you can feel like the heft and the weight of an object in a film, like when these boulders are coming down, the impact goes boom, or these big objects are just like when Tetsuo is going off the rails and he's like controlling all like these massive pipes and they're swaying through the air, and you can like they're slow, hefty moving pieces. You know, it's not flashy. It's like it's true to its like material. I absolutely love that, because nowadays when we like, for example, we see some mech shows and they're like zooming across like universe and across space and like moving super fast. But like old school animation, like Akira or like even the old Gundams, like when you see something like, and I want to like give a shout out to Pacific Rim, that would be a good modern good modern film of what I'm talking about. Like these things have to charge up, like they move their hand back, and the momentum, obviously, you know, because of the material it's made of and the weight, like charges, cocks, and then slow to start, impact. Like this film does that so well. Like to translate that into what it is back in the day, like I can't imagine the work and the thought that went into that.
Yeah, it gives more reality to like these situations that otherwise are like way out there, you know?
Yes.
Like just like you said, the movements of these operation systems, you know. When I think of is the those laser guns that Kaneda ends up shooting, but in the beginning you see all these soldiers have them, and one of the leaders is like, hold down for 5 seconds now for a different charge.
Yes.
And you think about it, like other like sci-fi things like Star Wars and whatnot, like a laser, you just pull it like you're shooting a gun. But in reality, wouldn't it be more like that, where you have to
charge it
to build up? Yeah, to build up the charge.
Well, and even when like Tetsuo's steals Kaneda's bike and like those three clowns go to take off, two go one way and then one cuts towards him, and once Kaneda kicks him off the bike, it goes under that garbage truck, and like it doesn't explode, it doesn't do anything crazy, you just see the little blast of the motor exploding, you just see a little bit of smoke, and it's like attention to detail, like it makes it more like real. Okay, yeah, that would probably really happen.
Yeah, like it's like a testament to like less is more, you know, like when you don't need this grandiose, I mean the film does have these grandiose aspects to it, which we do have, but like when you like the contrast between these grandiose effects and then like the real world, as you mentioned, a motorcycle sliding into an object and just like a chunk, and the engine failing, like it like blows, like that pulls you in immediately, like you're in, like this is your world, like this whole idea is kind of out there, but it makes sense.
Like physics exists though, like it's believable physics, and you know,
and I love how like
gravity.
Like the clouds, the smoke kind of like just it's slowly crawling across the cityscape. Like when Tetsuo's first going off the rails, it's like just amassing, like the clouds and the smoke, like it reminded me like a heavy fog. And like being from California, Jared, like you know, like the heavy fog rolls in, like it's a wall.
Especially Oxnard, man. You just like you get that beat, it just covers. Like, that was like the morning, like 4 months a year was just that's what mornings were like.
Yeah. So like this director, of course, you know, the creator of like, dude, I can't give him enough props, man. The whole team, like I'm taking away from the team, like you mentioned, the whole team, like just perfect, like they really, really took everything that's taking place and said, okay, how is this really? And then they made it happen.
Well, and then the end too, when like Tetsuo and Akira and the kids are all like have left, you know, the clouds start breaking and you see those bright, just pillared beams breaking through the clouds, and it was just like you know, when you actually see it like that, that's literally how it is. It's almost like these beams coming down, and they literally like were able to capture that even in their animation.
Yeah, you see it in Prescott all the time. It's monsoon season. You see those holes. And I just want to jump in here. Like, okay, it's film is directed by Katsuhiro Otomo, produced by Ryohei Suzuki and Shunzo Kato. I'm probably horribly mispronouncing that, but like, I really wanted to make it a point to get those names out there because you guys all know I'm fucked up with names. So let me just throw it out there real quick. So we got our fucking, we can talk about
cover
this
that base
correctly. Yeah, cover that base.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, yeah, perfect. Do you like, the beams of light at the end? Like that was like, I don't think we saw like sunlight like that throughout the entire film. So we do get that.
No, it was just the end part. Where it was
new
like,
dawn.
okay, yeah, exactly.
Yes,
like, okay, like here's the new beginning. We have to start over again.
Yes,
and hopefully do it right this time.
Like, I don't know shit about film, like directing, but like I can tell when something is supposed to mean something when it's like a new world is taking place here now. It's like crazy.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump into like what we think the ending means.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts on that because I thought of something that I
hadn't. Dude, did your voice just like go?
It's kind of going. Right? Yeah.
You got some hyped up, man.
I got COPD now.
Bro, you're turning into an Esper, man.
I know, dude.
Dating.
Becoming an old man. Shit. But Jared, I want to hear what you think about the ending. Like, what is there anything that jumped out to you? What you thought that the ending was supposed to represent?
Well, I mean, I guess in the ending, it all kind of represented that they're like alive in him, but at the same time, you hear the scientists say that, like, which I didn't notice before too, where he's like, "This is the creation of the universe. Like, this is the Big Bang. Like, he's like, this can't be," and then yet it just goes into something so small. And I mean, I guess like it's a break for a new beginning, but it's also like, I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it. It's like,
yeah, it's a big thought, right?
Like it's, yeah, like it's one of those that like now, especially as you're older, you're like, wow,
existential crisis.
Yeah, you're just like, not even that. It's just like, I don't know, like seeing literally how the entire thing was based off corrupt politicians playing against each other, whether it was the, revolutionists that were sponsored literally by the politician who was trying to dip out with his giant briefcase full of money.
Dude, yeah, I totally skimmed over that, like a subplot within a subplot, we have the corrupt.
And I never noticed that before. Like, I kind of noticed, but I never really put it together being like, oh, so this dude was just out for the cash the whole time. And just manipulating the entire thing. And like, that's fucked up. That's how politics is.
That's fucking politics today, dude. Crazy, man. It's crazy. This film is 30 years old. I can't get over that. I cannot get over that.
Yeah. Dude, like,
kind of spot on
it's insane.
Time.
It's like on some like Simpsons level shit.
Yeah, that's honestly, dude. Yeah, that's Simpsons kind of creepy as shit though too. But yeah, dude. Man, it's like a foreboding, a forewarning, and we can't adhere to it. Slowly realizing this future is actually probably relevant, possibly possible. Honestly.
And people just blew it off as a cartoon.
That's anime, dude. That's the stigma it has.
Yep, unfortunately. How about you, John? Like, where'd your mind go when you were thinking about the ending?
I think that I think it's open to interpretation as what the initial direction was for it, because we do have the constant voice lines not only happen once but twice from the Espers, the girl, and then Kokio, I think it was, and then Kei, the other one. Takashi, Kei, and Kokio. And it's not Kokio. I don't know what it is. But it's something like Kyoko. That's what it was. Kyoko and Kei are talking, and they say, "We have to go." Blah blah blah. They say something along the lines like, "We can make it back if," and then it ends, right? And then Kei comes in. He says another line, but it doesn't finish, and it does that once prior. It does that once while they're going in to save Kaneda. And it does it again after that new dawn, like at the end of the film as it's ending. So I think like my interpretation of that was where they're going is I think like, and then taking into consideration of the scientists saying this is a Big Bang, they essentially made a new universe. Like this, they made a new realm. Like they took Kaneda, Tetsuo, and the three other. I'm not sorry. They took Tetsuo, Kyoko, Kei, Takashi, and then Akira. All went there to create this new universe, and it's interesting that, like, it's almost like when we have the interpretation of the sun rays beaming down after Tetsuo takes in or catches that universe, right? And then he kind of Kaneda takes it in, and there's a white light flashes across his body. I'm not sure if it's within him or not, but like perhaps those sunbeams aren't meant for this world, because this world's kind of already super fucked, but it's meant for the new universe, the new Big Bang that was created from them, a new creation of life, a new birth, a new universe that is free of human sins. Is where my mind went this time.
I'm glad that you say that, because that's kind of where my mind went. And one of the points that I see is at the end, it's kind of like Tetsuo, the last line is he's saying, "I am Tetsuo." And it's like he's saying it over a white expanse. And it's like he's God at that point, and he hasn't created anything in his new universe, but it's like a blank slate.
He's God.
And, yeah.
It's like, and then we have the Colonel in the beginning who, like in the beginning of the film, he says we're not supposed to have like or mess with the power of a god, you know?
Yeah. See, yeah, that's another thing. When they're talking, you see they bring up a point to talk about amoebas, and they say how if an amoeba were to have the power of a human, that wouldn't make it human. It would just devour. And then it's reflected because Kaneda is like, is that what Tetsuo's doing? Because in a way, Tetsuo is given the power of a god, and he's going about using it in a way that all the other espers are like, you aren't supposed to use it this way. It's not going to turn out right.
Right.
And
then he turns into some giant amoeba baby, which was really creepy.
The amoeba baby. But yeah, then you see...
I was like...
Yeah, that imagery is really fucked.
It's haunting, right? It's haunting. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, but then, like literally, like especially like when he's sitting there and like his arm starts, like the wires from his arm start growing into the actual chair.
Oh yeah. Oh,
like an amoeba.
It's like a bad acid trip.
Yeah, something like that. Or a good one from whatever perspective you're going on.
I think like the whole imagery too of the baby was pretty open to interpretation too, because like it's almost like the birth of a new being or the birth of a god, you know, starting off in that fetal kind of imagery that was presented to us, and then consuming everything. You know, like a baby consumes all knowledge. Like obviously this baby god was consuming everything in front of him. One, of course, being Kaori, who got, damn, dude, she got like crushed. I don't know what it is, but like those scenes, like when somebody gets crushed like that and like the blood just like pops, it's like, oh, what?
Yeah. It's
but
like
the way they did it, dude, it was ridiculous.
Yeah. It was fantastic. I mean, that's fucked up, but to say it was fantastic animation.
Yeah, it was done amazingly. It was just savage.
Yeah, 100%. It's like, and like, I don't know, you know, that the saying on Kaneda's jacket, you know, it's good for health, bad for education. Like throughout the whole film, you can kind of catch what that stuff is, and it's like, damn, dude, that's a good saying. Good for health, bad for education.
Yep. Which also plays into the whole thing. Like, I never realized the fact that, dude, they were like 15 years old.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to realize that. I always think of like, I'm not sure if they did that on purpose just to relate to the young age, but like, whenever I see that, it's like, to me, these characters and the way they're presenting themselves, they seem like fresh out of high school, like entry level like education. 15. Yeah, like college. But yeah, then they're presented as 15.
And you're just like, wait, what?
Crazy. Crazy. But yeah, man, that's where my mind went. Yeah. On that, Jay.
Well, I mean, I want to touch on that where you're saying like how their age is kind of, it plays a part. How they might be like the way they act might be older than they're supposed to be. But then when you look at how Tetsuo acts, once he has this
Yeah,
power, he starts throwing basically the whole movie is he's throwing a giant temper tantrum,
Right.
and
yeah, because
finally,
he's like, I can take care of myself.
yeah, he's finally got
Why
this
do you
power to
always
like
save me?
flex on people. Yeah. So, I mean, in a way, like that shows that they like that is a way like a 15-year-old would act. But then again, also in this day and age, that's how like some fucking 30-year-olds act. So, like,
Sadly.
yeah,
Yeah.
we get to see it a lot with social media.
Yeah. I'm not sure if it's becoming more apparent or it's just becoming more known because of videos and phones being easily accessible.
Yeah, I'm sure it's always been
I
there.
feel like it's definitely both.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like it's definitely getting worse.
Yeah, it is. Yikes. Here we come. Akira 2030, dude.
Shit,
Right.
I want to go to Tetsuo's new universe,
2029.
bro. Sign me up.
Sign me up.
Dude,
I'll be amoeba.
as long as I get a bike. I just
As
want
long
the
as
bike.
Jared gets his bike with the sticker bombs on it, he's good. And that's
Yeah,
like
dude,
that
with like,
jacket.
and you notice, I'm pretty sure, like literally, like I'm pretty sure one of those is like it was like a canon one. There was
It's
like a
canon.
citizen one.
Yeah, yeah. It's true too, the what was to that time. And with the bike, I want to jump into it. Like I said, don't want to forget this or talk about this, but like we're talking about influence and inspirations, and Akira, of course, has influenced so many of the modern media that we see today. But it's it's something that I love and it's close to heart. Being kind of like I always love like a blending of cultures, and like last week we talked about like what's like the line between cultural appropriation and cultural appreciation. And I think this is such like Akira, like it's so interesting because when it came out in 1998, I believe like it was so influential. 1988, correct. It was so influential, of course, but also helped in creating the explosion of the 90s that we are all a fan of and nostalgic of, like 90s anime, and breaking that Japanese culture into our culture and the blending of it. But with that being said, the film takes a lot of its inspiration from Western culture as well. Like Jordan, you mentioned earlier, we have the bike scene and the lights are trailing off the bikes. Yes, that was actually influenced from Tron. Like the creator goes, Atomo, he says like some of his inspiration, especially for the bikes, was from Tron and Blade Runner. So it's like Western culture. So it's like you can tell back then, which is super interesting. Here's a little tidbit was Steven Spielberg and George Lucas were offered the chance to have some type of I'm not sure what it was, but they were offered like some type of creation of Akira. It may have been, I think it was this film, and they turned it down because they didn't think it would relate to Western culture. When in fact it was inspired. Some of the major aspects of it was inspired by Western culture. The whole cyberpunk feel was from Blade Runner. It's so insane.
Well, and that's a lot, man, because even with like you see the dudes with like the pompadours and stuff in a lot of animes, because like the whole greaser scene's a big thing in Japan. Yes. Also, like even now, dude, the cholo scene is huge in Japan. Like they do lowriders with hydraulics, and they're all wearing the Lokes and the freaking Chuck Taylors and.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, dude, how come we can't like? Why is our bubble so like? Japan is such in a way like. There's a reason like, okay, we love anime and we love Japan because like they take everything and they blend it into their, and it's nothing but appreciation, it's nothing but love, and they do it, and they don't have these like self-righteous like, well, I'm not Mexican, so I can't do this. I'm appropriate.
No, dude, they're like, we appreciate this culture.
This is badass. I want to do it. Let's do it. Let's
Yeah, I
appreciate it.
respect that. I like that.
You know, and so like okay, so now we have Akira is. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, isn't it like what is it, like copying is the highest form of flattery or something like
Imitation is the highest form of flattery. Right.
that? There we go.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
And so like okay, so Akira was inspired by Blade Runner and Tron for some aspects, but of course it was his own creation, which led to influence and inspire other, of course, it reverbs back into Western media. We have things that were inspired like, like the Stranger Things was one of them, of course. Like, I think there was an interview, if I recall correctly, there was an interview with like the creator of Stranger Things, and Eleven's breaking out of the hospital, and they said that was a direct influence from Akira. Kanye West has tweeted and said that Akira is one of his favorite films, and his music video for Stronger was directly inspired from Akira. Again, the hospital scene where Tetsuo is coming out, you can see that, and he says it. You can see that was directly influenced. We also have stuff like the movie Looper, and like Supreme even has collabs with it. And we also have that bike scene in the beginning of the film where Kaneda is driving through the cityscape, and he does that drift, that same drift where the bike leans left and it skids across the bike. How many, not only animes, but other mediums of art have imitated that? Like, dude, like it's in Pokemon, it's in Gurren Lagann, it's in freaking what is it? I wrote down a list. Like it's insane amount, like Batman, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Fooly Cooly, like that.
Yeah.
One scene carries on so far to this day. Day.
Yeah, you see the aftershocks of this creation, like in other projects, through this anime. Like one that I think of, and it's not an anime, but it's animated, is South Park. South Park even gave a homage in one of their earlier episodes where Cartman becomes the giant baby amoeba thing after he gets.
Dude.
Oh yeah, dude. And they did a straight Akira.
Yeah.
Or even Rick and Morty, dude. Rick and Morty, he basically became freaking Tetsuo and Akira. I think it was one of the finales of like one of the last seasons where he has like this crystal on his forehead.
I'll have to go back and watch that. I don't remember that one.
Yeah, literally, I think it was like the end of like not this last season, but the season before it, dude. Like it was this huge like Akira shout out. Like he's like throwing out a bunch of Mr. Meeseeks grenades and stuff like that, and it was a straight just shout out to Akira.
Shit. I mean, when you think about it, like it's I mean, the people who are now in production level and creating these new projects, they're at the perfect age where this would have been such an influential, part of their childhood or their young adulthood, being 30 years ago. I'm assuming like maybe if you're in like a production level like job, you might be late 30s, early 40s. And like it makes sense that these people are now reflecting it in art that they're creating.
I'm laughing because like we talked about this in our streetwear culture episode that's lost in the nothingness. We talked about this very subject, and how the influence of like the modern day age and all that continues now that Jordan's talking about now. So it's funny.
Oh, dude, you have to recycle.
No, I'm saying we're on point with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just an interesting thought. Like it just expands out into so many different mediums. I was looking for a song that I remember hearing like a long time ago, and it was from like a Bandcamp rapper, and the song wasn't anime based or anything, but he used the music that I was speaking of, where the espers, like when they're introduced, that like interesting different, just what I don't even know what instrument it was, but that whole music that was just blended into the song. And I always thought that was just a cool little homage, seeing as it wasn't just on your head, like just telling you what it was. It would be something that you would have to have the background watching this movie to be like, oh shit, that's from Akira.
Yeah, and then you're like, what?
Yeah. Good stuff.
But no, like, yeah, I think it's, yeah, just like literally, I don't know, like, and not just that, like, it transcends so many different levels, not only culture wise, but just like, there's people that aren't even really into anime that are like, oh, I've seen Akira and that movie's amazing.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I agree with that, and it's like goes back to like the recommendations of someone just getting into it. And again, like it's just a film standalone that should be seen. You know, in terms of just cinematography and film in general. There's so many like powerful imagery in the film as well. Like even when what stood out to me was when like they were the revolutionists in the beginning of the film, like having a kind of a powwow in like the bridge, and they have a giant brush and it's painting across the ground. I see like Agita is like written down with like blood red coloring and like blood was
and it says like Lord Akira, like what is it, like God of something.
Right. And it's just like it's unfortunate, it's eerie that a lot of this is relevant in today's days, you know, where like the proclamation of God can like forgive you of your, you know, of what you're about to do. You know, some people are extremists and they say, well, you know, if I'm doing this for God, you know, Akira, whatever, then it's okay. I'm always forgiven. And only God can judge me.
Yeah. Well, which is a funny thing too, is I had never really noticed like how gnarly and ridiculous the Akira cult was, and just like how ridiculous they made them.
Right.
Like they're sitting there just like having a giant bonfire in the middle of a city bridge, yelling at people and fucking painting all over the ground. And
I mean, like you mentioned earlier, the bridge scene when the cults basically, or the following, or whatever you'd call it, is following Tetsuo, like as he's crossing this bridge and approaching like the military blockade. And, you know, they're chanting. You got that one guy who's basically like preaching as he's getting carried on like one of those old school, like, I can't remember what they're called, but like where the people hold it on their shoulders.
Yeah,
carry,
little thrones that are carried, you know.
Yeah, this dude's
little hand carts,
shoulder
carts.
Yeah, shoulder cart. But yeah, you see them following Tetsuo.
And then he's like going to die. Then he's like going to die, and then like he's like freaking out. Save me!
Yeah.
I wonder if there's some like imagery that we're supposed to pick up on the fact that all of the followers of Akira just got annihilated. Like all those people on the bridge, like they just got murdered basically.
Yeah, destroyed.
And they were killed by the one that they were calling Akira and Tetsuo. Like he brought down the bridge that killed him.
Yeah.
It's kind of an interesting thought, like how sometimes we, just as humans, you know, in politics, you see it a lot where people will blindly follow a leader, and it could be to our demise, you know, we don't know.
Religion as well.
Yeah, religion. Like it could be anything where someone's in a position of power and they have such a huge influence on the masses.
Cult type mentality.
I was going to say, it's because they're all cults.
Yeah. 100% agree with that. Yeah. Well, okay, so we're kind of like we broke like the hour mark. We're about an hour and 12 in here, so I kind of want to wrap this up. Unfortunately, we can probably like talk about this for another hour or more, but you know that's just the way of the world and everything here. So, any last remarks you want to say about like Akira before we wrap this up here?
When we gonna all get those laser guns? I want a laser gun.
Yeah, I want
a laser cannon.
I want that bike.
Jared gets the bike. I get the Spartan laser.
I get the jacket.
John gets the jacket.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You already got a bomber jacket. Low key, been like scrounging Etsy for like that pill. Like I want to get like good for health, bad for education patch and put it on the back.
Oh shit!
Dude, there's companies that'll make that cheap if you can't find one.
Yeah, I know. I just want to like like there's a lot of topics we didn't get into in here. Like I wish we would have got into, but of course it's just how it goes. Like the fashion, the fits, the monotone design
Part
of
2,
some
bro.
of them. Part 2, I know, dude. Part 2, like it's crazy how time kind of flies by. But Jared, yeah, thank you so much for coming on here. We appreciate you coming on. We wanted to do more with our guests. Real quick though, if you have anything to plug, man, you have any side projects or anything you're working on yourself, feel free to plug it in right now.
No, man, just kind of doing my thing at the moment. Grinding my butt off, but thank you guys for having me. Let me know anytime. Always glad to come on.
Well, glad to have you on. We'll definitely have you on again in the future, man, because obviously, you're kind of a manga head, anime head yourself. So it's good to have the 90s babies all kind of just like echo chamber upon themselves. So we still think we're hot shit talking about this stuff.
Let's get reminiscing and at least go back for a little bit and just be able to go geek out with your friends. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's essentially what this podcast is all about, is just having a safe space to geek out on. Like me and Jordan mention all the time, we're just two guys talking about it. Like there's no judgment to be made. Like we're not experts at anything. We're not educated in like cinematography or film or animation or like literature or anything. We're just legit
or
two
anything.
guys. Yeah, or anything.
Yeah, just legitimate appreciation, man.
Yeah, exactly. We're hoping like other people that are like this will relate to it and be like, this is a cool spot where I can be, and not have to like obviously someone will know more about us and they go, oh, I know that more than you, and they can like shit on us, which is like something we'd love because we'd love to get shit on for some reason.
You can always learn more from other people. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Like someone said, you don't want to be the smartest person in the room.
Yep.
Who said
you always
that?
want to learn more the day you stop learning the day you die.
I don't know who said it.
Good. So now you have something to learn. So you're
not the smartest person in the room. Exactly. Well, everybody, this is the Monch Hours podcast. Thank you so much for tuning into our Akira episode. Like I mentioned, there's so much more we wish we could talk about. Maybe there'll be a part 2. We're going to have Jared to come back on again in the future for sure, 100%. But you can find me on Twitter at Mr. Hans, HAUNZZ.
And I'm on Twitter at Hi Riza. That's 3 Z's and an AH.
And you can find our Monch Hours at Monch_manga on Instagram and at Monch_hours on Twitter. If you want to talk to us, talk about anything, anime, manga. All right, everybody, that's the episode for today. Thank you again for tuning in. We'll see you next week on the Monch Hours podcast.
Thanks for watching. Till next time on Monch Hours.